struggling to get results if you're a business leader, we're looking today at the process to get organised and come up with meaningful things to watch and manage in your organisation so that you can feel free as a business leader, so that you can work on the things you want to, so that in the end your business is fun, profitable, safe, sustainable, and has amazing processes in place to help you to achieve the goals that you set. I'm really excited to be talking about what you've been working on. There are a bunch of business owners out there and business leaders out there who are constantly struggling to focus on what matters. Their attention gets diverted, and get achievements. So get momentum and get achievements on the board. Certainly from my perspective, I'm looking internally all the time about what we can improve and even improving what we look at.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to be sort of unpacking what that looks like and how you've been helping people with challenges like what I've got running this business.
It's great to hear the way you're feeling about some of these things, and it's important obviously as a business owner to understand through the organisation some of the areas that may be of concern to you and where the red flags may lie, whether it be with your management team, your systems managers and your staff. It's really important. So, you know, we've got a really tricky way, a very special way by which you can gauge that, and that's a test. It's a free test, and it really gives you a feel at any point in time exactly where you think you might be at as a business, but other people in the business, like your management team, what's their perspective? It's free. You take that test. You get your management team to take that test, because what we've found is that the perception of you as the business owner may not match that of the management team. Therein lies a bit of an issue. Our experience is, by looking at that and opening the conversation to that group within that facilitated session, starts to identify the issues that become a work in progress for you guys to improve, because that's the nub of the issue, right? So I guess from that starting point is to say, well, questions would be, do you have a business plan? Show me the business plan. No business plan, build a business plan with that management team based on the issues that presented and the things that you want as an owner, because the why of the business is the thing that leads you to the outcome that you're wanting to achieve. So outside of that, we have these facilitated workshops. Now they can be a bit of argy-bargy, but at least you know, and in a trusted environment, there's a conversation about planning for the future, planning for success. So the thing is that what you're wanting to feel is business freedom, freedom to focus on the next thing. And you've got to ask the question of the management team, what is it they want? What do they want to feel? And what would it look like, their ideal scene? What would that look like? Are they supported? Do they feel they have the processes or systems to be able to administer to a staff group to make sure that they're on track? And obviously what we'll say there is that, have you conveyed as the business owner the mission, vision and values of the business to the management team so that they understand, they're tied to it. One, they understand the direction and they're confident in what they're doing day in, day out supports the outcome for the business. More so, as a business owner, are you supporting the management team to be at their best? That's your challenge. These are the questions that we ask through this workshop, and you get a fair indicator pretty quickly of whether or not you're on track. Based on our discussions previously, there are a set of numbers that need to be achieved for this company to be profitable. One, what are those numbers? Is that group of people supported to that outcome? And if you cascade that for a second and you go to the staff and the messages that they're being told, does the management team particularly have the opportunities to be freed up to be taking care of the people in their charge? So let's say we're all on track, we've all agreed to a plan. We're going to come back quarterly to check that you're on track. More than that is that will give you the tools to monitor your progress through that quarter to ensure that you're on track and delivering on the business plan or plans that you set out. What we've discovered in what we do is that if we leave you to a full quarter by yourself, which is the 12-week period, things can potentially go off track. So what we've decided to do is that in our model, we build in a checkpoint every fortnight, just a simple phone call or an email. How are you going with that, Kobe? Are there any blockages, issues that we need to address that might derail the plan for the quarter? So this is how we focus and frame it up for you. Again, with the end in mind, business freedom, supported staff, what matters is being measured, and staff obviously are delivering on that. So this is how we work. quarterly with those intermittent checks in between. So I think we're wanting to give you that support throughout the process. So what you'll get as a CEO is that sense of freedom. You'll have an aligned management team tied to the mission, vision and values of the organisation. You'll have a team around that management team, staff that understand what it is they're doing day in, day out, no confusion. And also you have someone in assistant manager's role to be able to actually check on the things that matter to give you assurance that the business is as it should be and the way you want it and give you the business freedom that you want.
I'll tell you, like, I absolutely 100% agree. Like that, and that's the journey.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm sitting here thinking and listening to this and, you know, I'm putting the mirror up in front of myself. And what I'm looking for is that ultimate, like, I'm looking for an outcome where my people are focused on the numbers and not when they're focused on the numbers, that they actually change their activities and behaviours and adjust them themselves to keep achieving those numbers.
Yeah.
So while the numbers may be up there, like, and it's like people speeding, right? There's it says 60 k's an hour in this section of road, but everyone's doing 80. Like, I don't necessarily want them doing 80. I want them doing, like, I don't want them overachieving on the number, because the numbers are, you know, the numbers are designed and the systems are designed around it. So what I'm looking for is, I'm looking for a commitment, and then I'm actually looking for the results.
Yeah.
So I want to see a consultation and agreement on the number, and then if, you know, like, I'll always ask for a higher number, because if I can have the higher number, then all the things make sense. But sometimes people come in and negotiate, no, the number's actually going to be lower. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. If you're going to renegotiate that number, I need to go back and completely redesign my system, my organisational structure, the number of people I've had. What I'm also looking for is an understanding from people that they affect the market, like they affect the other parts of the business.
Yeah.
That they don't sit isolated. If I don't achieve my results, it doesn't matter, because it has a knock-on effect through the rest of the business. And so the value of the workshops is that we think at the moment, that's the way we do it. We get everybody together, and I can say that after going through this process over 5 years, more than 5 years we've been going through these processes. Mm-hmm. So that's 5 times 4, that's more than 20 workshops here at Best Practice. It takes time to get people to understand that if they're negotiating that the numbers that are discussed are based on a design, but if you change that number around the
numbers,
but they go, oh, it's okay, it doesn't matter if I don't achieve my number, but that has this massive knock-on effect. So in those workshops, having the conversation and saying, okay, is that number achievable?
Yep.
And if they say no, then I'm also looking for an acknowledgement that the system has to be redesigned, not there will be no change.
Yep.
Because we know that change is a constant. So the solutions essentially that we've come up with through this process is let's create the forums to have those conversations, but gently with people, so that we can bring them into alignment, but also at a pace where we hold people accountable so that the business doesn't go broke in the process.
Sure.
Because as you've just explained to me, that is the thing that matters. Nothing happens in isolation. These are the things that matter. When aligned, we'll deliver on what needs to be. But what I'll say is that you can speak for this, is that the 20-odd workshops, workshop 1 to workshop 20, it's a very different conversation. But what you did do, and was obviously a great move, was to start with a workshop.
You've got to start. You've got to start. You've got to start, and then you've got to do it without thinking.
Right. So it becomes a practice as a part of your process with a trusted group of people, whereby you can come in and test, how are we doing? That's a free test, by the way. You can do the test, and each time is a measure by which you are maturing. Because I think we've had the discussion recently, is that you look at that set of numbers and instruction and organisational chart, you're getting closer.
We're getting closer every day.
And I'm so happy to hear you say, as a CEO, my job is to convey that message 7 times.
At least.
Each and every time. So this is your job. But to be freed up to be able to focus on the message and not the doing is huge.
Absolutely.
As a leader.
we want to free, part of this process is we want to free people up to work on the business instead of in the business. Because what happens is you go double time to try and protect this other part of the business because that area of the business isn't getting their numbers. And that's the reality. So what ends up happening is that you, instead of working on the business to solve the problem, you go and hide in the doing in the business and you put band-aids on things.
Yes.
So, there's a gentle process where people, if you've never done this before, and we've talked about, how much stress this process can cause, that in the past we've been in those sessions where it's like you bring a sledgehammer in to start banging nails in when you've been doing it gently.
Yeah.
And it's a gentle transition into these discussions.
Yep.
So I would say that the first outcome is to be able to empower people with the skills to actually contribute to the discussion. The first outcome is people are empowered to actually contribute.
Could be their first time, that's confronting.
It's exactly right, and stressful. And we had people in the first rounds of some of those discussions said, I don't want to be involved.
Yeah.
Okay, fine, that starts to impact whether people should sit in a management seat or not in a management seat.
Yeah.
So then, even I've got to control my emotions. Like I've got to get to a point, and I've evolved where now I can sit in a lot of those workshops and not say a word, because it's the team working out how they're going to. Well, it's the team working out how they're going to play the game.
Yeah.
So is that what we're doing? Is Next Practice facilitating a forum where the team works out how they're going to play the game, not the leader dictating how they're going to play the game?
So that's the game plan. That's an agreed, because ultimately they're the people passing the ball.
And what gives you freedom is when the team can play the game by themselves.
Think about it. How much joy do you get as a business owner watching that and it may be rare, but those days when everything seems to work.
Absolutely.
It's wonderful. But here you are as the coach, effectively looking at that and saying, fantastic guys, great work, tweak here, tweak there. Imagine, as opposed to wholesale change, tweak here, tweak there. These workshops are an opportunity to come together to have that discussion because I'm just stepped away from the game for a moment.
Small
I've got perspective. That's all. And they don't need to be wholesale, but small. But the thing about the workshops I'll say is this, is that group of people in there making those decisions, which you're trying to empower, that's fantastic, but you're still there guiding them, tweaking, coaching, whatever it might be, the game of business. You've spoken about that before.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's really important to understand. Where we sit is to say, coming back to what we said about that quarterly catch-up, but what you've done recently, and what I've seen change is that through that quarter, you're still having your coach come in and talk to you intermittently.
Right. Absolutely.
This is what we do.
That's the critical part. The critical role where I sit, and what I require of this process is someone like Nick and any of the team from Next Practice actually supporting you through the small decisions. And I think we've learnt the lesson that wholesale change doesn't work. The wholesale change that was triggered by previous processes that we went through, it didn't work because it created you could measure it in, if you did blood tests on everybody in the business and measured cortisol, it drove too much cortisol into the business, which caused the business to paralyze itself. Yeah. So you think, right, let's do this wholesale change, let's try to grow this business, or change this business or rescue this business, whatever that might be. But for the players that, okay, fair enough, you need to reorder the seats and you need to decide what players are coming off the bench and onto the paddock. I get that. But with this wholesale changes, we campaign keep improving every day, little tiny improvements each day towards that greater outcome, not one massive thing.
Sure.
You go to the gym for one day, all day, you won't walk the next day.
Yeah.
And that's the wholesale change. If those of you that have ever been for a long run or a long walk or a long hard session at the gym, you can't walk for 2 days after that.
You've been to the rodeo.
You make you make the wholesale change in the business won't walk after that. Make small incremental changes.
I'm glad you said that because and we're fans of Simon Sinek, which is, I got a shrine to the guy at home.
Yep.
So, if as managers, my true job is not to be stuck in the detail, but purely to support the people in my charge. Trust and loyalty, supporting those people. That's my job. My job isn't the project, it's the people that I need to be managing. So as a business, I think what we're and working with clients is to give their management team the freedom as well to work with the people in their team, to support them to do what they do. Otherwise, I'll be tied up, my focus goes elsewhere. I'm not taking the pulse, I'm not checking, and there could be problems that arise out of that. Left unchecked, people will go off and do their own thing, they'll work around the system. So I'm glad you said that, because I reckon my job to convey the leaders out there is to take care of the people in their charge, first and foremost. Forget the minutiae, it's about taking care of the people in my charge. As a business owner, your management team directly are the people that you have in your charge. Sorry, it's a bit broader than that. There's a whole team. That's, as you say, it can be a lonely place, but that's what you're charged with.
Have you done tests on you?
Yeah.
Yep. So what did it tell you should focus on?
Resources, systems and processes, and governance was the other thing too, because I don't really have a governance structure as such. So if you looked at it from a startup, it's very thin in terms of responses. You, for instance, because of that maturity, have a better idea of, it'd be more context for you to say, but I wouldn't just leave it at you. I would extend that to the management, the execs, and they go through it too, because what I've found when I've worked with clients who have done it in management teams, they've got a set of reports where they're very different. But all that does is break down the barriers for the beginning of the conversation to say, oh, I didn't see it that way. I thought. Do you know what I mean? So removing that doubt, because the owner then, who didn't say anything through the whole session, funny enough, he just listened, he's gone himself, I understand, I've got some work to do because the message I'm conveying isn't getting through. That's what we found as a diagnostic tool.
And tell me the solution for the work that is to get the message through.
Yeah, so in this instance, there was a series of workshops that we ran for the client. So realistically, if we thought about it from the owner's perspective, he wasn't getting what he wanted out of the business because he could see that his vision, values, and the things that matter weren't being conveyed. In the absence of having that message, people were creating things in a vacuum. Wasn't attached with anything. So we work with them to say from the very outset, let's do a business plan. Get it out of your head as the CEO into a business plan. Have the management team buy into that business plan. And that way, then they understand what the message is from the owner and founder. More than that, I think it was setting out the key metrics or the things that matter that gave the CEO some confidence to begin with, that they were on track with their planning. The big thing for him was to discharge the duty and let go, because as you know, as an owner, it's dear to your heart. So how do you let go? Confidence in the team around you, I would suggest, is a big thing. And that's what we're seeing from client to client. They set out in their given divisions the things that matter, which were numbers, whether it be dollars or process-driven outcomes for client satisfaction, you name it. There were some key metrics that they put in place, so everyone had their number. Yep. In that, they were able then to build sub to that and discharge the duties to set up processes and systems for their staff to follow as a winning formula to deliver on that number. Outside of that was then to work on the cultural piece with staff that gave them the confidence that they were tied into a bigger picture. It's all cascading from the owner through to staff, that they understood that their daily actions by following this winning formula leads to an outcome and getting the number, which is tied to the greater vision of the organisation. It's a very powerful segue. But it all started with the test. They did the test. They got a feel for exactly how each of them interpreted the business. Now, they worked together for 30 years, but they didn't see the business the same way. Go figure. So for you as a business owner and thinking about where you sit as the CEO of best practice and thinking about what you want is business freedom, I would suggest that there's the opportunity to benchmark your thoughts against your management team's thoughts to make sure that they're aligned.
So if you're a business leader that's looking to have your team focused and achieving the numbers and looking at and working on the right things that matter. If you're a systems manager, if you're in a management team and you're leading a smaller team and you want to have those guys focused on communication, focused on consulting with each other and focused on achieving numbers and achieving the numbers, or if you're part of a team and you're part of a team that you would like to see your team performing and your team achieving amazing numbers with good quality communication, good quality guidance and planning around what's our direction, then this is something to have a good look at. So thanks for coming in. So if you guys, if anything in here has sounded familiar, if it's something that's resonated with you, we've talked through the process of having team engagement, through workshops, facilitating a process to unpack the things that really matter and look at and measure and monitor the things in the business that really matter. So the next practice process has been amazing. It starts with a diagnostic tool that will give you a report. That's a great process to continue to revisit, to give you continual benchmarks of how you're improving. And then the ultimate goal that we're looking for is where do you picture yourself in 12, 24 months' time, is with a great team that you're leading, achieving results. You can actually see the results. So the numbers on your graph today are very much improved from the numbers from 12 months ago. And in fact, you might be looking at different things that matter. So if this is sounding amazing, reach out to Next Practice. Nick's got a great LinkedIn profile. So find Nick on Next Practice or direct message me on LinkedIn at Kobe Simmons, my LinkedIn handle, and I'll put you in touch with Nick. Particularly if you send me an email on LinkedIn, I'll add Nick to the conversation and you can ask some questions. And questions are the great way to unpack whether this is going to be something that works for you. And we'll see you next time right here on Best Practice TV. Bye for now.
Thank you. Thank you.